What's love got to do with it? So yes, sadly, Tina Turner died yesterday at the age of 83. Very long life. Dare I say a beautiful life. It was definitely fraught with complication and heartbreak and illness, but incredible success. Welcome. My name is Nitya, and this is Karma Chameleon, the place for BaZi Astrology and Feng Shui. And we love to unpack what's happening with celebrity charts to better understand our own. So we look at Tina Turner, who was born November 26th, 1939 at 22:10 in the evening. She was born in Tennessee. Very sad, chart, or at least, her narrative is really kind of a sad upbringing, a lot of going back and forth, living with different people. And I have to say, this is somebody who has a unique chart, and it's not one that, for me, makes sense. Is often you look at it and it just all lines up. How this woman had such sex appeal and how she had such a presence. Well, let's take a look. She is born on a yin earth, rabbit year, a yin wood, pig month, a yin fire, rabbit day, and a yin metal, pig hour. So we've got here 2 rabbits and 2 pigs. Now, I will say that the pig is the most loved of the Chinese zodiac animals. They tend to be people that are easygoing, laid back. They enjoy the pleasures of life, the play of life, let's eat good food, let's enjoy great music, let's savor all the yumminess of life. And then we have 2 rabbits, and the rabbit, this is a year of the rabbit, and the rabbit is somebody that negotiates, somebody that looks for ways to bring accord into disharmony, someone who really seeks harmony. Rabbits can be very moody, and they can be condescending, arrogant possibly, but overall, rabbits tend to be pretty timid background creatures. So that's why this chart surprised me. I was looking for maybe a dragon or a horse. No. And so it really does beg the question of, how did she get started with this? And how was she able to sustain such a long, illustrious career? Well, having 2 pigs in her chart, sometimes when you have 2 of a zodiac animal, it causes a punishment or penalty that speaks to somebody that has an old pattern of thinking, somebody who gets stuck in possibly negative thought patterns. Yeah, and it can get kind of to the point where that stubbornness works against you. And, it's also like somebody who has this chronic dialogue in their head of, for instance, I'm not good enough, or I'm just a shit, whatever. But it's like that negative self-talk that gets stuck in your head. The old patterns of thinking can be ancestral. If you have, for instance, in her story, an abusive father, and then she winds up marrying an abusive man, Ike Turner, then that can be part of that narrative. So We also know that the pig and the rabbit form a semi-wood trio. And when we look at her elements, it's almost all wood. We've got 63% wood element, 12% of her own fire element. Now, one thing to say about the fire element is there's no fire element in the root of her chart, meaning all the animals don't have her own element in order for her to be rooted. So even better than the best placement, for instance, is being a yin fire person, is to have in her day pillar yin fire, like the horse, right? Or like the dog has yin fire rooted in it. So that gives, it anchors you into your life in a way that gives you added security for longevity. All right. So the other thing to notice is yin metal, yin fire, yin wood, yin earth, yin wood, wood with both of those rabbits. It's a very yin chart. Very interesting, right? Look at the persona that she portrayed. Strong, dynamic woman. And yet, very, very yin. It makes me really wonder how much she stepped out of her persona to be the person that she projected out to the world. I wonder what she was like, you know, sitting on the couch, drinking a cup of coffee. So I looked at all of that. This is somebody who very much was born to be successful, born to enjoy spending her success. Someone who has her head in the clouds, is an idealist, a dreamer. Makes me think of Rainbow Connection, you know, that song. And, you know, for a singer-songwriter, having that is lyrics in your back pocket. You know, it's like lying in the hammock on a beautiful spring day and letting the lyrics come to you. And that's where daydreaming begins. Daydreaming really is the impetus of creativity, no? All right, so I wanted to look at her grandparents, uncles, all of these people. She had so much support growing up as she moved from home to home over the course of years. Grandfather, uncles, they all show up as people who, and this is represented as yin earth, which is, you know, again, very weak, only 11%. That yin earth is motivation. These are people that were motivating for her. They were people that, you know, she spent active time with in an enjoyable way. Something that she, that she had a good time with. And that's nice. And then you look at the grandmother and aunts, and here we find yin wood. And this is that resource, indirect resource of yin wood feeding her yin fire is so prevalent in her chart that this is a Zhao bird chart. This is a chart where basically you have this little fire, this little flame, and so much wood, yin wood and yang wood. Yang wood is found in the pigs. Yin wood is found in the rabbits. And this is mother energy. And I almost want to use the word foster care energy. This is, she has so many people This can be clergy. This can be teachers. This can be outside support like foster care, though she wasn't in foster care. But there is that feeling of being like foster care in that people were fostering her and her siblings as she had to move because her mother abandoned them, because situations in, I think, World War II and all these different things that were happening. So there is so much of this wood energy that it threatens to snuff out the very thing that it's there to support, which is fire. And so in that, it becomes dangerous. And the Xiao bird is sometimes seen as a child that kills the mother, which I know, it sounds extreme. But suffice it to say that it can show up as a mother-daughter relationship that is overwhelming. It can show up as a relationship with the child in which the people taking care of her, their presence is overbearing. It's too much of a good thing. And too much of anything can become harmful, truly. So, but with grandmothers and aunts, and also because the rabbit is in her day pillar, double rabbit, we are really seeing that this is somebody that's got both in her romantic relationships and with grandmothers and aunts, this indirect support, not needed, overwhelming, oppressive, too much, and really feels like yeah, it's like threatening to snuff her out. But in all of this, you know, that energy can be inspiring. It can teach her something. It can be her soulmate, right? And these are all different layers. You can spin it positive. You can spin it negative. You know, like I said, the rabbit is moody. And it's secretive, it's self-focused, it can be, they're stylish, I will say that, and we definitely saw that. Perceptive, contemplative, peaceful, discreet. They're like the diplomats of Chinese astrology. And so being a double rabbit is really intriguing. Now, I mentioned the pig and being part of her personality because the pig shows up in her hour, and this is where we find her career. And so with that, it's really interesting to kind of note that the pig in her hour is an ascendant influence that's giving her just like the pig, this attitude of carefree, easygoing, self-indulgent, and somebody that's just focused on having a good time. I mean, it's the life of a pig. In the zodiac, these are the people that just want to kick back, eat bonbons, and laugh with their friends. So that's the energy in which she's bringing into this career. And then we look at that career pillar showing up as bringing her indirect resource, you know, money coming in from all different projects and different things she's working on. It shows that her husband is part of her work. It shows family might be part of her work. And it also mentions the mother, which is an interesting thing. And also legal matters and legal battles, things like that. But most strongly of all is this presence that her work involved family and certainly her spouse or spouses over the course of time. And her career started very early on. I think she had her first son as a teen. And when we look at a chart like this, you know, it would be a dominant chart if there were no metal. And in order to have a true dominant chart, one in which the element that is not the day master's self element. So for instance, it couldn't be fire, because that's what she was. So it can't be that. It can't be your element. You need a full trio, and you also need to not have the enemy of that dominant element. And so for wood, that's metal. She has 11% metal. So none of that really qualifies, okay? It's just an overwhelming presence of indirect resource and direct resource. She's got balanced amount of water at 22%. And so that shows that her career did have stamina. Where I wonder, you know, in order to really sustain a level of output and money, the two elements that she would need for that, to really feel motivated to get out there and create, is earth, and then to make money is metal. So we're looking for that earth metal presence as we move through her luck cycles. And this is somebody who lived 83 years. It's an incredibly long life. And so from the ages of 13 to 22, we are in 1953, yin fire ox. Now the ox we know is one of the hardest working animals in the zodiac. And the yin fire speaks directly to her. This shows that at the age of 13, she stepped into her sovereignty. She claimed herself. This also mentions this is partly her sisters. This is also friends. This is her really in her agency, confident, self-possessed. And the ox is giving her that exactly what we need, that motivation, that impetus to create. And she was finding joy in the work that she was doing. Within the ox, there is a little water that suggests the beginning of a career. There's also a little under here that mentions her father and making money. All of these things were playing out at that time. So again, if the two elements we're looking for her career to really kind of have that full anchored feel and to help balance her chart out a little bit, we want that earth and metal. And that was there present with the ox. We go to the next luck cycle and things begin to really change. Here we have ages 23 to 32. This is 1963 now. It's a yang earth tiger. Now we know the tiger brings in with the rabbits another semi-wood trio. This is a seasonal semi-wood trio. So it's reinforcing the aspects of her chart that we don't want to be reinforcing. Now that earth on the top being yang is great. And so is that yang. Well, I won't even say that, scratch that piece. But the yang earth is definitely a welcome presence because it does challenge the tiger. And here we have not only big change happening in her life. Her career is going, let's see, I believe she was with Ike in 1957. Yeah, so they were still together. This is a pretty vibrant time in their relationship, if you can call it vibrant. It was pretty toxic. I mean, totally playing out her parents' relationship, as unfortunately we seem to do. And this was also a time when sons were a big part of her story, and she had two sons, and she also adopted Ike's children as well. And the mother the role of mother is very strong during this time. So that changeability, that kind of going through her own renaissance of sorts, of recreating herself, maybe finding her persona as a singer, was really going through something. And this was a very motivating, creative time. And there's also mention of this other piece that I've talked about before in charts, this subtle aspect of, I almost want to say, rearranging yourself. And we do this. Sometimes, I can speak to where I am right now, we take on a job that asks us to be something we wouldn't normally gravitate towards. And as that happens, we find aspects of ourselves playing out that we don't normally think of as ourselves. So in some ways, it's almost like playing a role, putting on a mask, trying on a new persona. Who am I now if I'm like this or I'm doing this job? And sometimes it can be really cool. You can learn a whole lot about yourself like that, trying on different hats, trying different jobs. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it shoots you off in a growth spurt and a whole new direction you never saw coming. And I did that. I am doing that. And I will honestly say, I feel like a flower that's been squeezed into a square box, and it's uncomfortable. And it is forcing me to grow in a way that is not innate to who I am and does not feel comfortable. And so as I see myself responding to that, I know that I need to make changes in order to ensure my mental health and my well-being, because I recognize that this new persona really doesn't fit. And that's okay, right? All right, so then we are now in 1973, and she is ages 33 to 42. We have a yin earth rabbit. This is mirroring her year pillar, and this is bringing up, again, a lot of creative energy, a lot of action, and enjoying this work. It's also mention of indirect resource, that yin wood we didn't want to see. Didn't want to see. So now we've got 3 rabbits hopping around in her universe. And this can be outside help. This is, as adults, it certainly isn't things like foster care, but it can point to somebody going through kind of a spiritual awakening of sorts. So in 1983, we are, there is a hiatus, a period from 1976 when she and Ike broke up, and move into this other time where in the 80s she makes this comeback. And that's where the song What's Love Got to Do with It, and all those hits that we remember, where she had her own brand and her own work as a solo artist. This is a yang. We got it. This is the moment. And just to pause, the interesting thing is that relationship and romance in general, those previous 30 years of luck cycles, nothing. Not only that, there's not even a mention of harm to her. So it's really interesting. It's almost like not even there. And now we have ages 43 to 52, 1983, yang metal, dragon. this speaks of somebody that beautifully landed in exactly the elements they need. This is a time that speaks of change and inner revolution in her life. This is a point where her career takes a turn and there is money and success. That's the Yang metal. Opportunities for travel, and she is on top of the world. The dragon brings not only change, it mentions her son. It mentions, again, we have that indirect resource, a little bit of wood and a little bit of water. And again, this is really, again, speaking to either something she's learning, something that is giving her added help. It's helpers. Yeah. So now things are shifting. She's 53. We're going 53 to 62, 1993. This is a snake, a yin metal snake. So we love the yin metal. The fire is interesting because this is going to drain all of this heavy wood in her chart and at the same time fuel herself in a unique way. Now, the interesting thing is that the snake clashes with the pig. This is again 1993. And with the clash, fire and water are embattled. And when we look at fire and water, well, that's her career and herself. And I would guesstimate that during this time, she was embattled with her career in some way, shape, or form. This is, you know, and in that, there is this interesting look at herself, again, taking on a completely different persona. It's almost like in the 90s, she really reinvented herself in some way. There's extra money coming in from all different ways, different resources. Her sons are mentioned. There's money mentioned. There's travel. And there is this element of change. And certainly the snake is transformative. And I would say overall that that decade of the 90s was transformative for her. Things start getting interesting now. We're in 2003, 63 to 72. Yang water horse is bringing in a lot of that water is speaking to a possible new marriage or a big relationship. It speaks to family and it does speak to her work in whatever way it's, you know, whatever she was doing at that time in her 60s. And family, really about family and the love in her life. This is a reclamation of herself now. Yin fire, the horse. I'm back to me. I've returned home to myself. I've come back to the nest, the family. And family can be alone just with you, right? And in that, finding a renewed confidence and independence. There is a verve here of joyful creation and being still actively involved in her life, even though at this point, this decade really is carrying her towards a time of sickness. The next decade, she was pretty unwell. Ages 73 to 82, this was her last luck cycle in 2013. This August, she would have moved into a new luck cycle, and that never happened. Now, this last luck cycle, interestingly enough, almost all of it mirrored her life pillar. So this last decade that was so full of challenges mirrored her life. Isn't that interesting? So the yin water does not match the branch on her life pillar, which is yin metal. But this yin water with the sheep is coming in, and here it comes. This is the tipping point. You have a chart in which there is, what did I say, 63% wood. And here this poor woman, little bitty 12% that she's got of her own fire, goes into this period where the sheep creates a full wood trio. Hai Mao Wei. Pig, rabbit, sheep. Boom. It's kind of like, well, we threw on the twigs and we threw on the logs, and now we're just going to throw a whole tree in. Maybe a whole forest. And that little flame that was her, it's just snuffed. It's just snuffed out. It can't even survive. And even though water challenges, sun's shifting on me. Actually, the sun's just come out. It's been kind of cloudy here today. Yeah, so this is no surprise that the shit hit the fan for her 2013 to 2023. 10 years of awful health issues. She married Erwin Bach in 2013, and 2 weeks later had a stroke and had to learn how to walk again. And, you know, a stroke tends to be an interruption of blood flow. What did I just say? Her fire snuffed out by this huge surge of additional wood. Then in 2016, intestinal cancer. And I believe small intestines are wood. And I would also venture to guess that this enormous amount of wood is also competing with, because wood covers earth, and earth is your immune system. Yeah. It's also your digestive system. Yeah. So a whole lot happening here. The next thing that went wrong was that she needed a kidney transplant, and that happened in 2017. Prior to that, she had been on dialysis, and the kidneys are water. So if you have all of this, and it's interesting, right? We're looking at a bunch. We've already mentioned fire. We've already mentioned earth, and now we're mentioning water, because the dominance of this one element is starting to literally weaken and break down all the other elements. Fire, earth, water. The only one missing is metal. She died of natural causes. Usually means she died in her sleep. That's the lungs. Your lungs give out. You take that last breath. You sigh away. Beautiful. Beautiful. And that's really how I see it. It was like that final blow of just too much, too much, too much. And what a beautiful chart. I mean, as far as it goes with being the person that she was, just so dynamic and so amazing. I mean, that spark of fire, man, she clung to it. She clung to it. I mean, literally, like going to the concert and we're all holding up our lighters until our thumbs have blisters. Yeah, we remember those days. That was her. Holding up her own Bic with all that wood coming down on her. And she fought hard. And at the end, it was just too much. And when you look at it, she went through those 10 years with all that big wood trio. And it's interesting, that the day that she died was a yin water rabbit year, a yin fire snake month, and the day of yang water horse. So yeah, it's interesting that with all of that wood, she comes into the year of the rabbit, and that is her, the rabbit. And then you've got the month of the snake. This is all her element. The month was all her element. And even the day she died had her element. The horse has that yin fire. So, you know, I would imagine, especially given the fact March is another rabbit, you know, that it gets to the point where your system just cannot hold on. And an overwhelm of wood is definitely where I would say things really were playing against her. But, yeah, let's play some Tina Turner this weekend, for sure. Some good dance tunes for Memorial Day weekend. So that's it for now. I know this was a long one, but I felt like, you know, it's Tina Turner. Come on. Anyway, subscribe, like, follow, stick around. We'll have some more videos coming to you soon. Thanks so much and be well.